I'm Adam Collins. This is Isabelle, Westbury. This is Women's Cricket Zone's coverage of the 2020 Women's World T20. Bit of a mouthful, that. This is called The Outside View every day. Every game, every bit of this tournament, we're going to be there for it. In Pool B, England were the beaten finalists last time. Of course, they won this tournament all the way back in 2009. They've had a change in regime. Lisa Keightley is the new head coach after their failed Women's Ashes effort last year. They're a bit discombobulated, but you couldn't rule it out.
Yeah, I think discombobulated, but then on the other hand, quite sanguine in terms of the way their new sort of regime. I feel as though a lot more sort of responsibility has been put onto the captain, Heather. It's kind of her team. I think Keightley is a sort of, I'm not saying a background figure, but she kind of lets them do what they want to do, more so perhaps in the old regime under Robinson. I think that they're really asking now for their senior players to take that leadership role, and the likes of Siva as well. Brunt, I think, would be she's somebody that was absent in the last T20 World Cup for them, that horrible back injury. Yeah. I think that they'll really want to see sort of some direction from those players, and also because they're going in with quite a fluid sort of approach to these matches. I think we've heard Heather Knight already talk about that they almost have a different lineup for depending on what team they're facing, which could be a genius move, but could also really backfire in their faces. So I think there didn't seem to be a calmer, more sort of reflective attitude. And remember that the 2017 50 over World Cup that they won, their approach there was that they weren't the favourites, they were the underdogs, and that really helped them. And I feel as though there's a similar approach here, because I mean, arguably nobody's putting them as the favourites. I mean, considering the Ashes debacle, so to speak, they absolutely can't be. But I think this new regime we could see what happens.
Izzy, when we were going through Group A, we talked about the mental hurdle that New Zealand have in these major tournaments. The same can really be said for South Africa. Sure, they made the semi-final of the 50 over World Cup in 2017, but in 2018 they just capitulated. In the games that mattered most against the West Indies and England, they were nowhere to be seen. And much as it is, again, with New Zealand, all these players in the domestic 20-over competitions in Australia and England, all this experience under the captaincy of Danae van Niekerk, Marizanne Kapp, Shabnim Ismail, Lizelle Lee, Chloe Tryon, Serena Lewis. So much experience, yet so little to show for it.
Yeah, a lot of parallels, aren't there, with sort of individual prowess over that team cohesion, that elusive team cohesion. But I think the one thing going for South Africa over compared to New Zealand is that you feel like they're on this journey. They're on an upward trajectory. I think they've come from relative obscurity in sort of the world game. Their funding has been poor for a very, very long time, and you feel as though the right moves are being taken in the right direction. Whereas in New Zealand, you almost feel as though they're coming down from this pedestal and nothing's really happening. So I think that South Africa, again, yes, there will be some mental blocks from that kind of those pressure situations. Maybe they should not look to their men in this occasion for ways of overcoming World Cup hurdles. But I think it's that sort of there's a hope, there's an aspiration. I mean, Wolvaardt is the most tremendous driver. I mean, in terms of elegant cricketers, which certainly is come back into fashion in T20 cricket. I think there was a period in the sort of the first 5-6 years of T20 cricket on the international stage, especially, where it was a reliance on big, bold hitters, quite agricultural shots. But actually, a lot more has come back into the timing and appreciation of that sort of aesthetic aspect. And I think South Africa do have a few of those.
West Indies were the hosts and the reigning champions, just like Australia are this time. They made it to the semi-final without having lost a group game, and we all thought, well, here we go. They're going to go back-to-back, and they were beaten by Australia in that semi-final, and it's been a steady, slow, sad decline since then. They arrive in Australia in the worst possible form. It's hard to imagine how quickly they've fallen off the cliff, given they won this tournament 4 years ago.
As a sort of a sports mad kid growing up in the 90s and noughties, I kind of think of them as, I can compare them to maybe Pakistan men in the cricket zone. I can compare them to France rugby as well. I mean, they've got this ridiculous team where you have absolutely no idea what's going to turn up each time. I mean, it could be honestly some of the worst performances I've seen on the cricket field, but it could be something extraordinary like we saw in that 2016 T20 World Cup. So I think in terms of the unknowables, West Indies absolutely have that. And it's just hit or miss. I think Deandra Dottin, Hayley Matthews, Stafanie Taylor, these are three titans of global cricket. T20, again, we've talked about some of the sort of the weaker teams. This is the arena where upsets do happen. Their track record recently has not been great. I mean, I think about England in their summer series last season, absolutely wiped the floor with West Indies, and everyone was thinking what a wonderful preparation for the Ashes. And then look at the gulf between Australia and England in the Ashes; they got wiped the floor themselves. So if you think about the sort of the difference between Australia and England, there's an equal distance between England and West Indies there, and recent results aren't necessarily suggesting that it would go any other way.
Hayley Matthews was the player of the final back in 2016, taking down Australia with ball, then bat. I interviewed her after that, and she said she wanted to be the best all-rounder in the world. She wanted to be the player that people put up on their bedroom walls, and she hasn't quite had that journey, but again, it's that high ceiling that she's got. We know she can do it. Stafanie Taylor has been one of the most formidable players in women's cricket for the last, going on 10 years. Deandra Dottin, of course, we know about her record as well. Experience with the ball sufficient to keep India to 107 in a warm-up game late last week. So, look, even though it looks grim, their lead-up looks poor, who knows?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm in danger of sort of repeating oneself like a broken record. This is the arena to do it, and they've done it before. So, hey, let's see.
Don't rule them out. Izzy, whenever I think about the Pakistan women's team, I reflect on the fact that they only started in 1998. It's been a relatively quick journey to where we are today, and even though they're seeded fourth in this group, they have had a degree of success in World T20 competitions before, most notably in 2016. So under Bismah Maroof, the all-rounder, the spinner, she has such a vast amount of experience now, and the ICC Championship has been so crucial for them, hasn't it, over the last few years, allowing them to play a lot more bilateral series.
Oh, absolutely. And I think they're another team that come into this tournament with a sort of, again, a new regime. With England, you can argue with the coach. India, also Mitali Raj is no longer there, and here Sana Mir is no longer there. So I think that this is a little bit of an unknown quantity. There are some past performers. I mean, Javira Khan is such a wonderful, explosive player. I think that it could be the beginning of a new dawn, perhaps. I think we're seeing the men at the moment with their Pakistan Super League. It's the first time they're playing in Pakistan. You feel that there is a lot of sort of hope and potential in the way in which Pakistan cricket as a whole is going, and I think that there is certainly more investment and attention going into the women's side. So I don't know whether they're quite ready yet, whether that's that we're in that transition phase between the sort of the old Sana Mir regime and the new exciting one, young one as well. Many parallels to India there. It might be too soon, but again, scrappy competitors.
The final team in Group B, what a joyous story it has been. Thailand. They won 17 games on the trot in 2019. They made their way through. They earned their way through to this tournament. They beat Ireland along the way in the qualifier, essentially eliminating them from consideration, given Ireland played in this comp a couple of years ago. They were devastated to lose to Thailand, but having recruited players from a variety of different sports, they've now got an opportunity on this huge stage.
Well, this is kind of the strategy that when T20 first came about, is that there was sort of it was voiced around, maybe we can get people from baseball or real athletes, and Australia kind of did that, but from a much younger age. They just got all-round athletes and then brought them into the cricket sort of set up quite early. Thailand have kind of done the same, but almost from a bit later. So they've already got known performers in different sports and said, right, you've got, you're tall, you're fast, we're going to get you bowling. You've got a great eye for the ball. Up the order, and you're big and strong and going to smash the ball for miles. So I think it's a really exciting time for sort of the notion of T20 cricket in a way. Is can this work? So far, so good. And they've got the emerging player of the year crowned by the ICC in Chanida Sujirong, who is exciting mainly because nobody's really seen her outside of the kind of the warm-up tournaments or the qualification tournaments. So I think, again, we talked earlier about the sort of the young Indian side. There's a similar kind of unknown quality, but no fear factor around Thailand. I mean, it does seem that there'll be a huge test coming up against the likes of England, certainly in their group, even South Africa, and it could be horrendous, but we don't know. And so it's a very exciting and interesting time.
Yeah, we saw a video go viral, Izzy, a couple of days ago with the New Zealand side, giving some lessons to the Thailand players. But it's worth remembering, 11 Thailand women are paid professionally. Yeah. They won their qualification tournament. They're not just a bunch of club cricketers who are now playing in a World Cup. It's a bit different to what the perception is.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want to sort of speak for anybody within that Thailand setup, but I think there is definitely a sense of, listen, we're kind of getting all this coverage for a sort of a lovely feel-good story. Look, we're here. But actually, can you just wait and see what we can do on the cricket field? Because we haven't seen that yet. And I think that they really do want to show what they can do skill-wise. And
win or lose, we know one thing for sure. When they complete their games, they will be giving a big bow. I can't wait for that.